All right, talking about Ottawa and Detroit, who got a lot better in the offseason to try and break up that the first half, the core four of this division. They kind of left my Buffalo Sabres in the dust, I'll be honest. Buffalo is taking a slower approach. J.J. Peterka and Jack Quinn are going to come into this lineup full-time. Eric Comrie, who hasn't played a ton of games and, meanwhile, did have a good year with Winnipeg as a backup last year, is getting more of an opportunity, and it's all about just growth of young players on this team. It'll be a full season for a guy like Owen Power, whose Calder Trophy odds are pretty good. We'll see if Tage Thompson can follow up what was a huge breakout season last year with 38 goals and playing in the middle for this team. They add Ilya Lyubushkin on the back end to kind of shore up that, but just not enough to be with Ottawa and Detroit. So I've got Buffalo in this 7th spot. But again, I think that they could really surprise a lot of people this season. It's going to be another year of growth. This is a team that really likes playing for its head coach. They're getting the culture right. The guys like being around each other, and things are just really positive. And there was hope at the end of last season with this team, and they took some big steps. It'll be another step, but nowhere close to being into a playoff spot or competing for one. But they're going to take a big step this year, just not enough to put them above that 7th spot, the Buffalo Sabres.
Well, Harp, I think you heard me say earlier that teams 3 to 7, you could shuffle the deck, and wherever it lands, I would be happy with, because honestly, I think Buffalo could surprise us. But yeah, the other teams obviously made those big signings and big acquisitions that push them over the top, whereas Buffalo is kind of working at just getting older, getting older every single year, and it's going to work for them here soon. Like Jack Quinn and Peterka into this lineup, that's exciting. I expect Dylan Cousins to have a big season this year, and I picked up Owen Power in the late rounds of our fantasy draft because I think he's going to have a massive year. The back end is what scares me for sure, and then goaltending is a nightmare in my opinion. Eric Comrie was the Devils' 6th goalie 2 years ago, and I don't think that he's an NHL goaltender or starter. So Comrie and Anderson together, we'll see what can happen here. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of culture being built here. There's a lot of young guys. There's some veterans sprinkled in there. We've named a captain. We've got a coach we like. A lot of good things in Buffalo.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, the goaltending is maybe less of a question mark because Anderson was okay last year, and Comrie was actually really good in a small sample size. So, hopefully they're able to put together a decent season between the two of them. My only problem with the goaltending is that I really thought this was the year that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was going to play for the team, and I thought he was going to be a regular and get some more games in, because last year through 9 games, he might have been their best goalie. He had good numbers, and he was pretty good. So I guess he must have had a poor camp or something. And I guess the addition of Eric Comrie kind of pushed him down the depth chart. But I like UPL. Hopefully you see him up this year a little bit. But also hopefully those two between the pipes are able to get it done.
You have UPL, and he's kind of getting into the years where it's like we got to start giving him a long look, and instead you're going with how old is Craig Anderson now? 42.
Yeah, old.
42-year-old, and a guy who's played 28 games in a combination of 7 seasons. It's like if you're not expecting that you're a playoff team, I think maybe it is time to start playing UPL. I don't know what the decision is there in my mind.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm glad you guys mentioned UPL because you have to think about him when you think of the goaltenders for this organization. I mean, we've got Devin Levi and Eric Portillo down the road coming, but in the immediate sense, obviously, the most important thing is for UPL to play games. That's in Rochester, not Buffalo just yet. But I think as we get into the latter part of the season, I think there's a very good chance that this could become a three-headed monster in net. And obviously, Anderson is not getting any younger. His health certainly in question at his age and his body and everything. And we just don't know with Eric Comrie. Looking at Luukkonen, he had a pretty good camp and a pretty good preseason. Eric Comrie ended the preseason with a 7-1 loss against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So we never know, but it's going to be a good step forward for this team. And the way that we're talking about Detroit, Ottawa, New Jersey, teams like that taking a next step this season, I think as soon as next year we could put Buffalo into that conversation.
Yeah. I think three-headed monster was a weird term there, like maybe three-headed kitten at this stage.
Three-headed something, anyway.
It has three heads. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah. You're right. Three-headed monster would mean that
they're all good.
Yeah.
That's what they called the Leafs center depth when it was Tavares, Matthews, and Kadri.
Right.
That was clearly one of the better in the league. But back to Buffalo, I think also just to finish up on them, their forward group I think is good. I like the addition of the younger players into the lineup here, like Peterka and Quinn. Another big year for Cousins, etc. I do like Owen Power on the back end. He looks legit. I think he's going to have a good year. Dahlin's another year older, and you guys know how much I like him and how good I think he is. But in terms of this forward group specifically, I think there's a lot of regression to be had here. Like Tage Thompson, for example, is a main candidate for me for regression. We had 68 points in 78 games last year. He shot 15%, which was double his career average. Previous to this, his career high was 14 points in 38 games. So I think there's going to definitely be some regression there among other players. So as much as I do like Buffalo and think they, got better just because they added some of the players that they expect to be part of their core group going forward. The other teams in this division just got better than they did. So Buffalo is going to be better than last year, but they're not going to be in the playoff spot, and I think that's fair to say.
Yep. No, for sure. And as a Buffalo fan, I can accept that. And I'm just looking forward to another year of growth for this young team. There's excitement and hope for the first time in a long time. Two more things about the Sabres before we get to our last place team in this division, the Montreal Canadiens. I want you guys to watch Matthias Samuelsson this season for Buffalo. Very good, underrated left shot defenseman. He's big. I think he's 6'4", and very underrated, and he'll be Rasmus Dahlin's D partner this season. Dahlin a left shot as well, but he's going to play on the right side and Samuelsson on the left. So I want you guys to watch Samuelsson. The other thing, what do we get out of Casey Middlestad this season? First round pick. He was drafted 8th overall. What do we get out of Middlestad? He's got 2 years left at 2.5 AAV. Can he stay healthy, and can he produce like he did not last year but the year before towards the end of the season when Don Granato took over for Ralph Kruger? So I think that's a question mark for me. I
think you should trade him to Boston for a very solid third line center, because that's what New Jersey did with Pavel Zacha, and I think it's maybe the time for Casey Middlestad, who is in the same conversation in my mind. A 6th overall pick and an 8th overall pick that we've seen sparks from, and that's just about it.
I mean, Alex Nylander was another one who was kind of the same thing in Buffalo. They just have had so many guys over the years and so many not pan out, but I am more confident in the group that they have now, I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely.